In a quiet town in Ohio, Mark Thompson stood behind the counter of his gas station, wiping down the surface with practiced ease. To the casual observer, he was just another employee, a part-time worker blending into the background. But Mark had a secret: he was the owner of the station, and for the past few weeks, he had been working undercover. His goal was to gain an unfiltered view of the day-to-day operations and understand the challenges his employees faced. That evening, the usual hum of the station filled the air, punctuated only by the occasional ding of the door as cars pulled up to the pumps. Mark had been monitoring reports of fuel thefts and vandalism in nearby towns, and he sensed that his station might be next. He had spotted subtle signs: a loose lock on the storage shed, graffiti on the back wall, which felt like warnings he couldn't ignore. As he kept an eye on the lot, the door chimed, and two teenagers walked in. Mark glanced up, his heart quickening. They looked young, maybe 16 or 17, but there was something about their demeanor that raised alarms. The taller one, Jake, was lanky and fidgety, while the shorter one, Sam, had a stocky build and a more serious expression. They exchanged hurried whispers, and Mark's instincts kicked in. Jake scanned the shelves, his eyes darting toward the door every few seconds. Sam nudged him impatiently, their hushed tones filled with urgency. Mark moved casually toward the cash register, pretending to organize receipts while straining to catch snippets of their conversation. "I'm telling you, we're not ready," Jake said, his voice low but insistent. "This is stupid." "We don't have a choice," Sam shot back, his tone sharper. "Do you want to deal with what happens if we don't?" Mark frowned. Their exchange felt darker than typical teenage chatter. He decided to make his presence known, stepping out from behind the counter to restock a nearby display of chips. "Evening," he said casually, glancing their way. The boys froze, their conversation halting abruptly. Jake's face went pale, and he gripped a soda bottle as if it were a lifeline. Sam, however, recovered quickly, flashing a tight smile. "Hey, just grabbing a drink," he said, his voice a touch too bright. Mark nodded, his expression neutral. "Let me know if you need anything." The tension was palpable as the boys exchanged a furtive glance before Sam grabbed a second soda and headed for the register. Jake trailed behind, looking as though he wished he were anywhere but there. As Mark rang up their sodas, he kept the conversation light. "Quiet night, huh?" "Yeah, real quiet," Sam replied quickly, while Jake remained silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. When Sam nudged him again, Jake startled, fumbling with his wallet. Mark raised an eyebrow but chose not to comment. "Have a good night," he said, handing Sam his change. The boys mumbled their thanks and hurried out the door, their retreat almost too quick. Mark watched them go, his gut telling him that whatever they were planning, it wasn't harmless. The faint chime of the gas station door closing lingered in Mark's ears as the two teenagers disappeared into the night, leaving behind an unease he couldn't shake. Something was pushing them toward whatever reckless plan they were about to enact, and he resolved to follow. As the evening air turned crisp, Mark grabbed his jacket from the back room. Years of experience had taught him that trouble didn't resolve itself by waiting. He stepped outside, the fluorescent lights buzzing behind him. In the distance, he spotted the teenagers under the dim glow of a street lamp, walking quickly with their heads bent close in conversation. Mark kept a safe distance, sticking to the shadows as he followed them. The streets were quiet, the usual small-town stillness broken only by the occasional bark of a dog or the rumble of a passing car. The boys turned down a side street, their pace quickening. Mark hesitated for a moment, scanning for potential onlookers before continuing his pursuit. They stopped at a small park on the outskirts of town, where a single lamp post cast a pale circle of light over a weathered bench. Mark ducked behind a large oak tree, crouching low to stay out of sight. From his vantage point, he could hear snippets of their conversation. "We don't have much time," Sam said sharply. "We've got to figure this out now." Jake rubbed his hands together nervously. I don't want to mess this up." What if something goes wrong? It won't, Sam replied, his tone softening but still edged with tension. We've gone over this. Just stick to the plan. Mark's instincts were buzzing now. Something about their urgency didn't sit right. He leaned in closer, straining to catch every word. Just then, the low growl of an engine broke through the quiet. A rusted pickup truck pulled into the park, its headlights casting harsh beams that danced across the trees. Mark ducked lower, his pulse quickening. The driver's side door creaked open, and a man stepped out, rough-looking with a lean build and a scar running from his temple to his cheek. A cigarette dangled from his lips, and his movements exuded a quiet menace. "Get over here," Sam called out, standing up quickly. The man, Rick, snapped back sharply, "I don't want excuses. You two screw up again, and it's not just you who'll be dealing with it. Got it?" Jake nodded rapidly, his hands trembling. Sam tried to hold his ground but faltered under Rick's piercing gaze. Rick tossed a folded piece of paper at Sam, who barely caught it. "That's your next job. Simple enough, even you two can't mess it up." As Sam unfolded the paper, Mark felt a surge of dread. The boys were clearly in over their heads. When Jake hesitated, Sam urged him on, "We have to do this. Do you think we can just walk away?" Mark knew he couldn't stand by any longer. He stepped out from behind the tree, making his presence known. "Evening, boys," he said, his voice steady. The reaction was immediate. Sam froze, and Jake jumped, his eyes wide with panic. "Mr. Thompson." Jake stammered, clearly flustered. "That's right," Mark replied, crossing his arms. "Now, how about you two tell me what you're doing out here at this hour?" Sam hesitated, his bravado faltering. "Nothing. Just, fixing something." "Fixing something at midnight at a pump that doesn't need fixing?" Mark raised an eyebrow, glancing at the bag of tools at their feet. "You're not fooling anyone." Jake looked at Sam, clearly unsure of how to respond. Mark softened his tone. "Look, I know you're scared, but whatever Rick has you doing isn't the answer. You're smarter than this." Sam's defiance wavered, and he lowered his gaze. "You don't understand. He'll come after us if we don't do what he says." "Then let me help you," Mark said firmly. "You don't have to do this alone." Ben finally spoke up, his voice trembling. "He threatened our families. He knows where we live. If we don't do what he says." Mark raised a hand to stop him. "I know what kind of person Rick is. But fear only works if you let it control you. Right now, you have a choice: keep doing what he says or let me help you take a stand." After a long pause, Sam sighed and dropped the bag to the ground. "Fine. We'll tell you." Once inside the gas station, Sam pulled out the folded paper and handed it to Mark. It was a crude map showing how to disable pump safety mechanisms for siphoning fuel without detection. Mark felt his stomach drop. This wasn't just theft, it was much bigger. "This isn't the first time, is it?" Mark asked, shifting his gaze between the boys. "No," Sam admitted. "He's scoped out other stations. It's not just about fuel." "What do you mean?" Mark pressed. Jake hesitated before speaking. "We heard him talking on the phone. He's moving shipments. He uses the fuel pumps to hide it." Mark folded the diagram and tucked it into his pocket. "I need you two to stay away from him tonight. No contact, no sneaking back here. Leave everything to me." "What about Rick?" Jake asked, fear evident in his voice. "Let him come," Mark replied. "I've dealt with guys like him before. He doesn't scare me." As the boys left the station, Mark turned back to the monitors, knowing he had to act quickly. He needed to gather evidence to protect the boys and take Rick down for good. The night wore on, and Mark felt the weight of the situation settling over him. He had to prepare for whatever Rick was planning. He reviewed the surveillance footage from earlier, noting every time Rick's dark SUV had appeared. The visits always coincided with delivery trucks arriving at nearby businesses, suggesting that Rick was using the station for something larger than petty theft. As dawn broke, Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose. He gathered his thoughts and prepared for the upcoming confrontation. He knew he needed allies, and he planned to enlist the help of local law enforcement. When the sun began to rise, the gas station was quiet again. Mark felt a sense of hope as he prepared for the day ahead. The arrival of the police could mean the end of Rick's operations and a chance for the boys to reclaim their lives. As the clock approached noon, Mark received a call from Detective Mills, a trusted officer in town. "Mark, we're ready to move on Rick. We need you to keep an eye on the station today. We'll be in touch." Mark nodded, determination flooding through him. "I'll be ready." As the day unfolded, Mark waited for Rick to make his move. He was prepared to protect his station and the boys, no matter what it took. When the inevitable confrontation came, he would stand his ground, ready to fight for what was right and ensure that his community could finally heal from the shadows Rick had cast over it.